Hi, I'm Abby Brown, and this is lesson 2 of using Dreamweaver, in which we're going to look at adding a graphic, adding alt tags, and resizing the graphic. So we're back to what I used in lesson 1, which is my basic web page that says Anatomy of a Rubber Duck. Now, what I've done in advance is I've gone into Photoshop, and I have created the image that I wish to place in my web page. Now, I just want to make a quick footnote here about that. It's really a good idea to sketch out your design ideas before you start producing them in a web page. Sketching them out will give you kind of a list of things that you need to prepare as you're making your web page. So when I sketched out my basic anatomy of a rubber duck page, I knew that I wanted an image of a rubber duck with all of the anatomical parts already written in. So I created that in Photoshop. Let's add my image now to my web page. We go to Insert, Image. We choose the image. I know that it's on my desktop and it's named duck.jpg. So we add that. Select. Now it's going to ask me for my image tag accessibility attributes. If somebody views my web page and they either are sight impaired or their bandwidth is low and they're not accepting images, what do I want the text to read in place of the image? So I'm going to create something very simple for now, just for our purposes, which says rubber duck labeled with its parts. This doesn't really mean much, but you get the idea. You can label it anything you want. Now, nobody will see it unless they're looking at the alt tags, that is, unless they're not looking at the image itself. So we've inserted my image. The black border will not appear in the actual web page because there is no black border around the image. This is just the image insertion size. So if I click away from it, you can see this is what the reader will actually see. I click on it again. This is the image. Now the reason that the white background of the image matches the white background of the web page is because I planned that in advance. If my web page had a different color background, the background of this particular image would not change. So right now, see, we go down here, we can actually choose the background color for here by clicking on Page Properties. We can choose the background color, and if I choose a different color, just for example, very bright green, you can see that my image stays the same. Let's undo that because that's a lot to look at. Okay, so let's look at my image again. Now, I've imported a JPEG image. There are 3 kinds of images that a browser can present to a reader, and that is a JPEG image, .jpg, a GIF image, .gif, and a PNG image, .png. So whatever you create using Photoshop or any other photo editor, you must translate ultimately into a JPEG, GIF, or PNG file. Now, once I've placed the file here, I can change its size the same way I can do it in Word, just by manipulating the handles on either side. I can also change the size down here using the width and height. Now, it's important to realize that the duck image is not currently blended into the web page. Images don't get blended into the web page. They don't become written into the code itself. If we look at the code, we're going to split here. The code here, now I know it's impossible to read from what you're seeing, but it says, the highlighted image says, or highlighted code says, image source equals duck.jpg. Alt equals rubber duck labeled with its parts. Width is 487 pixels. Height is 307 pixels. Now the fact that it says image source equals duck.jpg means that the browser is going to need the image source every time it brings this up. So when I upload my duck.html file to a server space, I also need to upload the duck.jpg image file so that it can find it where it expects to find it. Right? So they need to be bundled together. Back to design. And that is a basic overview of how to insert an image. One other thing to keep in mind about images is that images are not easy to move around in a web page. A web page is a fairly static document in terms of the fact that things are either aligned left, center, or right. Now I could put another image just to the right of this. There could be two images, but I can't really move the image itself. I can't move it just a few pixels over one way or the other. So you do have to decide in terms of your basic design. You do have to decide how the image is going to be used, um, without thinking about being able to just place it the way you would place it using InDesign or using PowerPoint. And that's a basic overview of placing images for a web page. I'm Abby Brown for East Carolina University.